A carry permit, or even permitless carry, does not mean you can carry wherever you want anymore. In some states, one sidewalk, one parking lot, or one stop for lunch can be the line between legal and criminal. Pause. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed? Because what I'm about to reveal could keep you from carrying into a place that just became off limits. Hit that button now. Look, most gun owners pay attention to big stories. They hear constitutional carry, they hear Supreme Court, and they think the rules got simpler. But here's the truth. In a lot of places, the map got more confusing, not less. Some states expanded who can carry. Other states expanded the list of places where carrying can get you charged. And the worst part is this. A lot of these changes do not feel obvious when you're living your normal life. You're not walking into a bank vault or a prison. You're walking into a park, a restaurant, a church, a city building, or a public event. That's why this video matters. I'm going to walk you through 5 gun law updates that are active right now and could impact where you can carry, especially if you travel. And trust me, the last 2 are where most people get way too comfortable. First update, California. And this one shocked a lot of permit holders because it turned everyday places into legal danger zones. Here's what just happened. After court fights over California's SB 2 carry law, a state justice bulletin said that starting January 23, 2025, concealed carry holders could again be barred from carrying in 9 more sensitive places. That's just a legal way of saying places the state says are too restricted for you to carry in. Let me break this down for you. We're not talking only about schools or courthouses here. We are talking about bars and restaurants that serve alcohol, playgrounds and youth centers, parks, athletic fields and athletic facilities, property run by the State Parks Department or Fish and Wildlife Department, casinos, stadiums and arenas, public libraries, amusement parks, zoos, and museums. And here's the part nobody's talking about enough. In several of those categories, the rule can also reach the related parking area, and sometimes even nearby sidewalks or streets tied to the location. Imagine this. You have a valid California permit. You stop for lunch after work. The place serves alcohol, but you are not drinking. Most people think, I'm fine, I'm being responsible. But that's not how this works. The issue is not whether you had a beer. The issue is whether the location itself is now on the banned list. Same thing with taking your kids to a museum, walking through a park, or parking next to a youth sports field. That is how normal people get tripped up. But here's the crazy part. Not every California location on the old list is being treated the same way. At the time of that state bulletin, some categories were still blocked by court order, including hospitals, public transit, public gatherings, places of worship, financial institutions, and private property open to the public. So if you're confused, that makes sense. The rule is split. Some places became enforceable again, while others stayed tied up in court. That is exactly why you cannot rely on a friend, a meme, or a gun counter conversation. You need current, state-specific information before you carry. And if you travel, California is a perfect example of why I have a permit is not enough. Your permit is not a magic shield. In a state like this, your whole day matters. Where you park matters. Where you stop matters. What kind of business you walk into matters. This is the kind of update that turns a simple Saturday into a police contact nobody wanted. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the 5 words that can protect you when an officer asks about your gun. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Second update, New York. And this one matters even if you never plan to move there. Why? Because New York shows how fast a state can rebuild carry limits after a major court win for gun rights. In April 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to take up a challenge to parts of New York's carry law. In plain English, that means a lot of New York's restrictions stayed standing. So what does that mean for you? It means New York can still enforce many rules that block carry in what it calls sensitive places. We're talking about government buildings, schools, healthcare facilities, theaters, bars, polling places, and even Times Square. Think about how wide that is. If you are a visitor or even a resident trying to stay careful, one day out in the city could take you through several restricted zones before lunch. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Let's say you drive into New York for a weekend. You think, I'll keep it concealed, I won't print, I won't cause trouble. Then your day includes parking near a crowded area, grabbing food at a place that serves alcohol, walking past a theater district, and stopping near a polling place during an election period. You may feel like you're doing everything right, but your intent does not control the law. The location does. Most people think the biggest gun law issue is getting the permit. But the truth is, in places like New York, the bigger trap is what happens after you have it. Where you go, where you sit, where you stop. That is the part that catches people. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Colorado made a very different kind of move, but it can still hit your carry rights hard. Colorado created more restricted government spaces, and it also tightened permit training. First, the location side. A law that took effect July 1st, 2024, made it unlawful to carry firearms in buildings tied to the state legislature, buildings where local government bodies meet, offices of certain government officials, courthouses, and adjacent parking areas in those places. Schools and licensed childcare centers are also part of the larger restricted picture there. So picture this. You are running errands downtown. You park near city offices. You step into a building where a council meeting is happening. Or maybe you cut through a courthouse complex because it is the fastest path. In some states, people assume the rule only applies to the courtroom itself. But here's what most people get wrong. In Colorado, the law reaches more than just the judge's bench. It can cover the building, the government meeting space, and even the nearby parking area. Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. And then Colorado added another layer. Starting July 1st, 2025, permit applicants who use training to qualify have to meet tougher standards. That includes an in-person class, at least 8 hours for an initial class, a written test, and a live fire exercise. Renewals can also require proof of current competence, often through a refresher class completed close to renewal time, unless an exemption applies. Why does that matter for where you can carry? Simple. If your permit lapses because you missed the new rules, then every place that required a valid permit becomes a problem. So yes, location law matters. But paperwork law can quietly erase your ability to carry there at all. Hey, 73% of people watching right now aren't subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the gun owners who get these updates before the average person even hears about them. Click subscribe. Third update, South Carolina. This is where people hear constitutional carry and immediately relax. Maybe too much. South Carolina's law took effect on March 7th, 2024. Adults 18 and older who are not otherwise prohibited can carry openly or concealed without a permit. On the surface, that sounds simple. But wait, there's something even more important. The places you cannot carry did not disappear. Firearms are still prohibited in a lot of locations. Schools, churches, unless you have express permission, law enforcement facilities, detention and correctional facilities, courthouses, places where medical procedures are performed, public buildings, polling places, school athletic events not related to firearms, daycare and preschool facilities, and any place properly posted against weapons. Here's what most people get wrong. They hear no permit needed and assume that also means no sign matters, or public property is open season. Not true. A later South Carolina municipal law review explained that publicly owned buildings are generally still off limits, but parks, parking lots, and garages are more complicated. Local governments may also temporarily restrict open carry at permitted events on public property, like a parade, rally, festival, or protest, and they are supposed to use signage when they do it. Let me give you a real-world scenario. Imagine you are carrying in South Carolina and heading to a downtown festival. You park in a public garage, you walk through a park, you pass city property, you see a crowd and a permit banner for the event. You may think, I'm outside, so I'm good. Maybe, maybe not. The answer can change based on whether it is a public building, a permitted event, whether the restriction applies to open carry, and whether signs are posted. That is not simple, that is layered. And there is one more piece people ignore. South Carolina still keeps its permit system. Why would you want a permit in a permitless state? Because permits can help with reciprocity and can make interstate travel easier. So if you are the kind of person who crosses state lines, permitless carry at home may not protect you once your tires hit the next state. Fourth update, Louisiana. Louisiana opened permitless concealed carry for adults 18 and older on July 4th, 2024. If they are not otherwise prohibited from having a gun, that sounds like a big green light. But here's the part nobody should skip. Louisiana also kept a long list of restricted places, and some of them are exactly where normal people go. You still cannot just carry anywhere. Prohibited spots can include law enforcement offices, jails, courthouses, polling places, public buildings used for meetings of a local governing authority, the state capitol, school zones, and school buses, parades or demonstrations with permits, secure airport areas, and places of worship unless authorized. Property owners can also ban firearms, and if you carry into another person's private residence without consent, that can be a problem too. Now, let's talk about the mistake people make with food and nightlife. A lot of gun owners think, as long as I'm not drinking, I'm fine. In Louisiana, the place itself matters. Firearms are restricted at alcoholic beverage outlets, and the rules around restaurants and permits can get very fact-specific. So if you are meeting friends, stopping at a bar and grill, or walking into a place that serves on-site alcohol, do not assume your common sense is enough. Read the rule before you carry there. Here's another twist. In New Orleans, police guidance said that more restrictive local gun rules than state law would become null and void as of August 1st, 2024. That sounds like simplification, right? Maybe, but simplification can make people sloppy. And sloppy is dangerous. And the smarter move is to ask one question every time you carry in a new place. Is this location restricted by state law, federal law, or the property owner? If you cannot answer that fast, you should not be guessing. So, what is the big lesson from all 5 updates? It is this. The old mindset of, I can carry unless I see a metal detector is dead. Today, your biggest legal risk might be a perfectly ordinary place. A playground in California, a theater district in New York, a city meeting building in Colorado, a posted church or festival area in South Carolina, a restaurant or public event in Louisiana. That's why this matters so much. This information could go stale fast as court orders and state rules change. Subscribe now because the next video breaks down exactly how to check a carry location before you walk in, not after an officer is already talking to you. At the end of the day, the biggest takeaway is simple. Carry law is no longer just about whether you can own a gun or get a permit. It is about your route, your stops, your parking spot, and the kind of building or event you step into. One wrong assumption can turn a normal day into a criminal case. Pause. So please, stay sharp and stay informed. Subscribe right now if you want clear, simple updates without the legal fluff, because I make these videos to help you protect your rights and avoid mistakes that can change your life. And one last simple disclaimer before you go. Laws change fast. They differ by state, and this video is not legal advice. Check your current state and local rules and talk to a qualified attorney if you need advice for your specific situation.